Yeah, which surprises me because they have.
That kind of brings us all together. It's kind of like the park advocates. We describe that as bringing all the different groups to the city who are doing tree planting or green futures or the Preservation Society, but all doing this kind of work separately and bringing them together so that they can hear what each other are doing, support one another, and then find out on a larger scale what people like you all are doing and learn from that and have that be a motivating factor.
10-minute or so presentations by Heather, Jane, and Colin. Then it'll be open to questions and answers, discussion. We're hoping that this is a kind of a long-term discussion that on the trolley going through town, and then perhaps in the upcoming months we can organize a visit particularly to Lawrence and Lowell to see what we're going to hear about today. So I would also like to just introduce you a little in more depth to our presenter.
For me personally, it's really neat to see so many of you here from representing a cross section of interests and responsibilities and agencies for these. It's always great to be with this gang of folks. We kind of like each other, and we found that we were doing the same kind of work and doing this urban land protection stuff. We're all working in various cities, and we've kind of slowly coalesced and decided that we wanted to do exactly this kind of outreach to folks like you. And so I sort of developed this concept of what I call the Urban Land Protection Council. And essentially we wanted to be able to have the opportunity to network within ourselves, share our ideas, actually document the kind of work that we do, and get out to other cities and areas throughout New England to learn more and share our ideas. So we were founded in 1990 with the mission to improve the quality of life for the people of Lowell through the preservation, conservation, and conservation of parks, open spaces, and we also have special places in our mission as well. We actually do some historic preservation. That's part of the special places. We own the 1760 Spalding House. Of course, part of our core mission is to protect land within the city of Lowell. Our most recent acquisition was a 5-acre, our first conservation restriction, the last 5 acres of the historic Hawk Valley Farm. That's our first conservation restriction.
Early 1980s, there's a building boom, and there are a lot of people in our city that were noticing that the places they used to jog, the places they used to walk the dogs, the places where their kids were playing in the woods were disappearing. So the city of Worcester did a couple of novel things, fairly bold for us, one of which is we had a building moratorium. We actually had a building moratorium on subdivisions to go back and look at our planning and zoning codes and to look at our open space plan and to sort of rewrite it, to stop the clock, make sure we had the proper planning, and then restart the clock with plans in place. A couple things came out of that, one of which was a top 10 list of open spaces that people wanted to preserve, another of which was a fairly in-depth open space plan that was filed with the state. And the last of which was a recommendation where the city came to the conclusion that no matter what their wants and desires were with respect to parks and open space, there was just no way on earth they were going to get it done. There just wasn't enough money in the city budget to get it done. And the only way they were going to get something done was to create a nonprofit partner, someone who could go out and leverage private dollars, be they corporate dollars, private individuals, search for grants which are only applicable for nonprofits and aren't applicable for a city, and that together a nonprofit with the city could probably get some projects done. But if the city was left to itself, particularly the Conservation Commission is always distracted with regulatory affairs. The Planning Department has a number of other problems that are going on that it's constantly dealing with. The Parks Department is always trying to do upkeep on playgrounds where people will try to set fires to plastic slides. There just is somebody has to pay attention to this stuff. So after talking about it for a number of years, two people from our community, both women, sat down at a Friendly's and said, enough talking, we're creating a nonprofit. Deb Carey and Evelyn Silver. And from that point onward, 1987, we've now protected over 1,700 acres of land. We work a lot with the City of Worcester. The City of Worcester is basically our partner. So that's just sort of to give you a sense of the funding and where we came from. Jane's shop is bigger than ours. They're 1.5 full-time staff. We're 1.4. Just to give you a sense of how much you can sort of leverage with a small amount. Volunteers are absolutely how we get everything done. The first thing you'll note is we have too many acres to be managed by 1.4 people, and this is something that any municipality will be completely familiar with. There just aren't enough people. Volunteers are entirely how it works. We have a 0.4 person who basically recruits, trains, keeps in touch with, and leverages our volunteers. And they do everything from monitoring open space to make sure there aren't problems, setting up Earth Day cleanups, cutting trails, just getting regular reports on how the property is doing, what kind of uses are there, what kind of wildlife is there. Without that kind of infrastructure, what we had to do is build ourselves around volunteerism. So, with that, I'll hand it over to Heather, give you a sense of our crazy Worcester neighbors, and now you can see what the other guys are doing over there in Lawrence.
Heather, do you want to take a little break and eat a little bit, or?
Oh, I'm okay. Thank you, though. And I think this is a perfect example of why I love the Urban Land Protection Council, is that we're all different. And I listened to Colin talk about 1.4 people and how they do volunteers, and I'm thinking, we're 4 people and the volunteers are more difficult. We don't have that as much in Lawrence. And, you know, they have membership, we don't have membership. We're very different communities. And I think that's what's really key, is that we can learn and talk to each other and be envious and jealous of each other at the same time, because it all works different. Illinois is a land trust. We own an alleyway. That's our first community garden. So I laugh every time I say I'm part of the Urban Land Trust Coalition Council, because we own an alleyway. But we do see ourselves as the landowner of last resort. So if there is property that the city can't take, won't take, that is a possibility for us, especially the Garden County. And that's something actually the city's now bought into the community garden network. We've got money from the park grant actually to build 3 to 5 new community gardens and vacant lots starting in July. But as development pressures increase, the city may or may not continue with that, and obviously there's a match involved for that. So we need to start looking again at acquisition and whether that makes sense.
So they need to be able to do that without any fear of something happening there. It also goes to the trash and stuff like that. I think that's important. So if it doesn't look nice, it doesn't look appealing, people won't go. I think perception becomes reality in cities, in general, urban areas, but in particular in parks. I think it's important that our parks are perceived to be safe and clean. So we want to do our part, and we're willing to do that every chance we get. Thank you.
Especially for playground destruction, and to reiterate what the chief has said, that particular organization is a neighborhood organization, and they were quite vigilant about keeping their playground safe. And I think it's also, you know, not only do the children need to feel safe, more often the adult and the parent needs to feel like it's a safe environment to bring their child in.
The question I have is there a formula that says if you have a city of 90,000 people, 95,000 people, what's an acceptable ratio of open space? How many parks should a city of 90,000 people have? Because what happens is, as we continue, we fall prey to constituency groups, right? So community comes, they see a vacant lot, all of a sudden they want a playground. Well, that's good, right? But I'm saying, would the money be better spent in investing in existing parks and creating and encouraging people to go to the parks as opposed to creating another playground, which is going to cause more maintenance, which is going to cause more issues for long-term upkeep and these other things.
There's energy in the neighborhood for that open space to sustain it going forward. That's something you want to pursue. You don't want to just create an open space for creating open space sake, but if there is a desire in the neighborhood and an ability to leverage either fiscal resources or blood and sweat, that's the indicator that there's something worth pursuing. So I wouldn't take all surplus properties or all tax title properties and magically turn them to Concom just because. But if there is energy that is capable of being leveraged to make that open space work going forward, that's great.
Everyone could take care of whatever they have to take care of and go to the trolley.